So, welcome everyone. Ask that we be upstanding in opening prayer. Almighty God, we ask that you be present at this meeting to assist us in our service to the community through local government. We pray that our decisions will be wise and taken with good will and clear conscience. Amen. Councillor and officer presence at the meeting. All councillors are in attendance. Apologies and granting of leave of absence. Nothing. Any disclosures or conflicts of interest? 5, confirmation of minutes. Recommendation that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on Wednesday the 22nd of May 2022 as circulated be confirmed. Someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Anderson, Councillor Scales. Second. All in favour? Carried. Petitions and joint pledges. Don't have any public question time. Informal meeting of councillors. Found the appendix 1. Would someone like to move recommendation or any questions or anything on that? Councillor Scales.
Happy to move the recommendation as presented, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Scales. And a seconder, Councillor Dick Shea. All in favour? Carried. 9, organisational improvement. 9.1, rates in lieu. Call on our Director of Corporate and Organisational Development.
Mr. Mayor. So Council, as you may be aware, currently levies AGL Hydro Limited an amount instead of council rates, which is governed by an agreement which expires in June 2022. A new agreement has been proposed for a 5-year term plus a 5-year extension option in accordance with the methodology prescribed by the Electricity Act 2000 and an order in council which was formed under that act. The proposed agreement will provide approximately $383,000 in revenues annually, indexed by inflation, which is $330,000 more than that provided by the current contract with AGL Hydro Limited. So the recommendation is as presented.
Thank you. Any questions or clarification on that report? Councillor Wortman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment. Just like to thank the staff for this report. A lot of work, but what a great outcome for our communities. It's income that we will benefit our communities into the future. It's an ongoing income stream, and just like to congratulate the staff.
Thanks, Councillor Wortman. Any further questions or clarification? Someone like to move recommendation? Councillor Wortman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to move that the recommendation as presented be adopted.
Thanks, Councillor Wortman. A seconder. Councillor Anderson. Anyone opposed? All in favour? Carried. Great outcome. 9.2, budget. Again, if we can call on our Director of Corporate and Organisational Development.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this report provides an overview of the submissions received in response to the proposed budget 2022-23, as well as the final budget 2022-23 document for consideration for adoption. So you recall that at the April Council meeting, the Chief Executive Officer was authorised to make the budget available for public inspection and to invite public submissions. This has now taken place, and we did receive one submission requesting an additional $5,000 contribution per annum towards the Escale swimming pool, in addition to what they already received. The document has been updated to include the submission. In addition, since being released for public exhibition, the document has been updated to include new information, and you'll see more about that in the background and history section of the report. And we now are projecting a deficit of $2.744 million That's inclusive of a substantial $32.121 million capital works program, representing significant investment in assets across our shire. Receipt of $6.566 million in non-recurring grants from state and federal resources, continued expenditure in relation to bushfire recovery efforts, a temporary increase in engineering services staffing to aid in delivery of our substantial capital works agenda, increases in funded early years roles due to increased demand for early years services, an increase in the curbside collection charge by 10% due to the increased cost of providing the service, no increase to the waste facilities management charge, and selected changes to waste tipping fees to better reflect waste processing costs. And finally, a rate rise of 1.75% in line with inflation. And just by way of clarification, you'll see that that is a deficit for next year. That is primarily due to the timing influence of the early receipt of the general purpose grants that we received from the Victorian Grants Commission, totaling over $5 million. We received a significant proportion of those early this year as well. So, in summary, the budget shows that our financial position has improved following years of work to contain costs, manage revenue to more sustainable levels, and advocate for funding. However, longer-term financial sustainability still remains challenging given the cost of maintaining our ageing infrastructure to a serviceable level. And so the recommendation is as presented.
Thank you very much. Questions and clarifications on that? Quite a lot of in the recommendation. Councillor Scales?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to move the recommendation as presented, but I just want to make a slight adjustment to item 1, being that the proposed budget 22-23 attached to Appendix 2 be adopted, subject to increasing the annual contribution to Westdale Swimming Pool to $16,500 plus GST, and I'm more than happy to speak to that if there's anyone against.
Is there any more questions or clarification? I just wasn't sure that we got that. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Dickshaw? Anyone against?
Yeah, it's just me. I'd like to move an amendment to the motion.
Councillor Walkman?
Yes, thank you, councillors. Noting, I'd like to add a point 13 to the recommendation. Noting the dramatic increases in construction and material costs across all construction industries following the pandemic, many program projects within the Shire will exceed their budgets. But council and project managers continue to work with funding bodies and the communities involved in these projects to review the scope of works, to reduce costs and try to deliver outcomes closer to budget.
Happy to accept that amendment. It's acknowledged.
Very good. Thanks, Councillor Scales. So, Councillor Scales is happy to move with that amendment. Councillor Dickshaw? Happy as well? Anyone opposed? All in favour? Carried. Thank you. .3 Occupational Health and Safety. Again, if I can call my Director of Corporate and Organisational Development.
So as you will all be aware, this is a regular report providing the Council with an overview of the key activities relating to the occupational health and safety area during April and May 2022. Major activities in the past couple of months included a continued focus on COVID-19 related requirements, the completion of emergency evacuation diagrams and pressure vessel compliance inspections, the completion of insurance questionnaires as part of the annual insurance renewal process, which is quite a substantial piece of work, drafting of a work cover procedure and the sporting reserves hire and lease procedures. It's great to have those procedures in place just to make sure our staff are clear what happens within those areas, and conduct of the 2022 influenza vaccination program involving more than 50 staff and councillors, which is a great turnout. So the recommendation is that the report be noted.
Thank you. Any questions or clarification on that report? Would someone like to move recommendation? Councillor Waldman.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Could I move that the report be noted?
Thanks, Councillor Waldman, a seconder. Councillor Anderson. Anyone opposed? All in favour? Carried. Uh, 9.4, performance reporting graphs.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, unfortunately, the performance reporting graphs are not quite ready this month, and we'll table them at next month's council meeting.
Thank you. Datascape action sheet report. CEO against that one. I'll take that as read. Are there any questions? Or clarification on that report? No. Would someone like to move the recommendation? Will be noted. Councillor Scales,
Happy to note the report, thanks, Mr Mayor.
seconder. Councillor Waltman. Anyone opposed? All in favour? Carried. Bushfire relief and recovery, 10.1, is presented quarterly. The next report will be provided to council in July 2022. Community and Wellbeing, 11.1, the Community Services Report is presented quarterly. The next report will be provided in August 2022. 11.2, Recreation, Arts and Culture Report is presented quarterly. The next report will be provided in August 2022. 11.3, the Emergency Management Report is presented quarterly. The next report will be provided in August 2022. 12.1, Asset Management Report. I'll call on our Director of Infrastructure and Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So this report is a bi-monthly report on asset management activities throughout the Shire for the period of 1st of March to the 30th of April 22. It's provided for information only and gives an update on the progress of the capital works program.
Any questions or clarification on that report? Councillor Waltman.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I've got to say, I really look forward to looking at the asset management dashboard report. It's a good update on how things are going. And look, we know our capital works program is huge. I was just talking to someone on the way up here. It's on a par with Wodonga's capital works program this year. So for a small rural council, it's amazing. And look, we all know that the projects are progressing, which is great. And just like to thank the team for their efforts. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Waltman. Any other questions or clarification? No, would someone like to move recommendation? Councillor Anderson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move that the report be noted.
Thanks, Councillor Anderson. The seconder. Councillor Dick Shea. Anyone opposed? All in favour? Carried. .2, cleaning of municipal buildings. Director of Infrastructure and Environment.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This report provides information on the assessment of tenders for the provision of cleaning services for municipal buildings and seeks approval to appoint the recommended contractor. The recommendations are as presented.
Thank you. Any questions or clarification? Councillor Waltman.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and look, I'll have to say to the director straight up, this is, you might have to take this on notice. The cleaning company that got out of the contract, just as far as council's risk perspective, have we got any, is there any penalties involved with breaking the contract?
Not in this particular case.
Yep.
No.
And with the new contract, again, just the risk to council, will be looking at? Yeah.
I don't think there's penalties, built into the
Yeah.
contract.
Yeah.
I think we were able to find
Yeah,
people to.
no, look, I'm all for goodwill and, you know, and they've got a bit of a history with us now, so, yeah, that's fine, yeah.
I think there's enough cleaning companies within the area that we're able to bring another one in.
Thank you.
Any other questions or clarification? Someone like to move recommendation? Councillor Dick Shay.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move that the recommendation as presented be adopted.
Thanks, Councillor Dick Shay, a seconder. Councillor Scales, anyone opposed? All in favour? Carried. 12.3, Corrion Weybridge and Truck Wash, Structural Works. Again, Director of Infrastructure and Environment.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide information to support the assessment of tenders, submissions, and the supply, installation and construction of the structural concrete services for the Corrion Sale Yards as part of the Weybridge and Truck Wash project, and to seek council approval to appoint the recommended contractor. And to note, this is part of a larger project. That is the Corrion Weybridge and Truck Wash project. And the recommendations are as presented.
Thank you. Any questions or clarification? Councillor Dick Shay.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just want to clarify that where did this tender sit in relation to the proposed budget for that part of the project?
Through you, Mr Mayor. This part of the contract will push the budget over what we have. There's been some internal looking at how we can still fund the required outcome that's required by the grant, the funding body, and also what the community expectation is.
But we think that's manageable.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any further questions or clarification? Someone like to move recommendation? Councillor Scales.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Happy to move the recommendation as presented.
Thanks, Councillor Scales, a seconder. Councillor Dick Shay. Anyone opposed? All in favour? Carried. Talbot Tennis Courts. Again, Director of Infrastructure and Environment.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This report provides information to support the assessment of tender submissions for the Talbot Tennis Court redevelopment project and seeks council's approval to appoint the recommended contractor. And the recommendations are as presented.
Thank you. Any questions or clarification? No report. Councillor Walkman.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, look, again, I'd just like to thank the staff for working with the community in the Talbot area to get the result. We know that the project was much bigger with a multi-purpose court, but with the budget we had, that was unachievable. And look, as much as the community would have liked the multi-purpose court, they're going to get 4 very good standard tennis courts, and the community really appreciate that. And like I say, I thank the project managers and the staff for working through this the budget problem we had there, and we're going to achieve a very good result for the community. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, councillor Wortman. Any further, yes, councillor Scales?
I'll be happy to just support what Councillor Waltman had there, Mr Mayor. When you read the report and the original tenders came in at 60% above what the budget was, it really does show the substantial increase that we've seen in our capital works and what's happening indeed right across Victoria and Australia. It's not just common, it's common to everyone, not just to Town, that these increases are occurring. But yes, absolutely, congratulations to the staff and the community on getting to a great outcome.
Thanks, councillor Scales. I just had one question. Do we have a time frame on that job? Are we likely to have that finished by tennis season? Do we know? Do we know how that's progressing? Like, are the contractors,
It's October finish date, but weather permitting.
It really depends on how much rain
Yes.
and how quickly we can get this contract into place.
when does tennis start?
October.
So it's tight, but we're looking like if something went wrong, it's only the first couple of games.
Yeah.
Miss or something in my head, so it's not February or something. So that's a great outcome and very good. Councillor Dixon.
Can I ask where the contractor comes from?
Might have to take that one on notice.
Okay.
Any further questions or clarification? I think someone like to move that recommendation. Councillor Wortman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that the recommendation as presented be adopted.
Thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Anderson. Anyone opposed? All in favour? Carried. Thirteen point one, land use planning report. We'll call on our Director of Community and Planning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report is a monthly report on the planning permit activity for the Land Use Planning Department. During the month, there were 10 new applications received and 7 were issued and 2 were withdrawn. In total, the value of the permits that were approved was $2.34 million. Just before I go to the recommendation, I just wanted to make the point that across the state, land use planning resources are extremely stretched. And in some cases, there are local governments that are saying permits won't be decided within 6 months. So I just wanted to point out that it's incredible that we really haven't been impacted by that at this stage, and hats off to the staff who've done a really good job keeping that in check. So the recommendation is that the report be noted.
Thank you. Questions or clarification? Councillor Wortman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to the Director, the team includes 2 consultant planners and a planning administration. Those positions all filled, yeah.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Thank you.
Would someone like to move recommendation?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. So I just have I'm more than happy to move for the report be noted, and I've just got a slight comment to make there. Thanks to our Director for explaining what's happening with planning. It's just definitely right across Victoria with a shortage in planning staff, as yourself and I heard at Rural North East MAB meeting the other day, Mr Mayor. So congratulations to the staff on being able to keep the planning process going through as smoothly as possible. And moving with the report be noted, thank you.
Thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Dickshay. Anyone opposed? All in favour? Carried. Uh, 14, environmental sustainability, 14.1 environmental sustainability report.
Thank you.
47 if it helps. Call on our Director of Infrastructure and Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report provides a quarterly update to Council on environmental sustainability activities throughout Shire for the period of 1st of January to 31st of March 22. It also seeks Council support to submit an application for funding under the second round of the Transfer Station Upgrade Fund. And the recommendation is as presented.
Thank you. Questions or clarification on that? Councillor Scales?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. May have to be taken on notice, I'm sure, just where we're applying for 356,600 for the transfer station upgrade. Just wondering what the council's contribution to that may be. But happy to take that on notice.
Through you, Mr
Yeah.
Mayor, there is no council contribution for this application.
Fantastic.
That's an even better contribution.
This one.
Thank you. Any further questions or clarification? Councillor Waltman?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, under a community engagement, I see we're going to have a community survey that's going to gather data on our recycling practices, and I think this will be very important. Very important. Look, there's a lot happening within the Shire on this front, and I think this will be valuable information. Yeah. Thank you.
Would someone like to move a recommendation? Councillor Dickshay?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move that the recommendation as presented be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Dickshay. And the seconder, Councillor Waltman. Anyone opposed? All in favour? Carried. .1 Economic Development and Tourism Report is presented quarterly. The next report will be provided in August 2022. 15.2 Economic Development Agriculture Report. The Economic Development Agriculture Report is presented quarterly. The next report will be provided in August 2022. 16 councillor reports. I don't believe we have any. We're working on those. 17 urgent business. 18 committee minutes. 19 occupational health and safety. Nothing. And 20 council policies. So 20.1 policies for review and adoption. Policies for review at Appendix 7 of the Stockbridge policy and the temporary road closure. So if we have any comments on those, to provide that to the nominated councillor officer by the 27th of July. And policies for adoption today are at Appendix 8, and they are the Audit and Risk Committee Charter and Procurement. Any questions or clarification? Councillor Waltman.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. The Audit and Risk Committee Charter, given that there's been quite a few changes to that, I suggest that we defer that policy, and take it to a workshop. But happy to move that the procurement policy be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Waltman. Do we have a seconder for that recommendation? Councillor Scales? Anyone opposed? All in favour? Carried. 21.1 is a sealing of documents, Section 173 Agreement, Cowan Shire Council and Nathan Prosser. Is that our Director of Community and Planning?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This Section 173 agreement is between Cavenshire Council and Nathan Prosser. It is a requirement of the Planning Permit 2021-047, which was issued on the 11th of August 2021. It mostly pertains to the ongoing maintenance of the road crossing from Mount Alfred Road to the property boundary, where the property is described as Lot 18 of Mount Alfred Road, Mount Alfred. So the recommendation is the use of the common seal be authorised in accordance with Local Law 1, Common Seal of Miscellaneous Counties, for the purpose of signing the Section 173 agreement relating to the land described as Lot 18, Mount Alfred Road, Mount Alfred, in accordance with the requirements of planning permit 2021-047.
Thank you. Any questions or clarification? John like to move recommendation? Councillor Waltman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move that the recommendation as presented be adopted.
Thanks, Councillor Waltman. Seconder? Councillor Dickshay. Anyone opposed? All in favour? Carried. 22 is confidential. 22.1, work cover investigation progress recommendation. That the meeting be closed to the present public to consider information considered confidential under section 3(1) of the Local Government Act 2020. So if we're happy, there was 2 items in confidential, we close the meeting for, we'll discuss both items. So one is under section 3(1) of the Local Government Act. So, well, 3(1)F, rightio, and 3(1)H. Thank you. Someone, Councillor Scales?
Happy to move the recommendation as presented, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Scales. A seconder? Councillor Waltman. Anyone opposed? All in favour? Carried. And thank you. Now, meeting will be closed. Completed.